Welcome to today's webinar, Speech Recognition Tech Extends How Officers Can Be Productive Anywhere, presented by Nuance. I'm David Griffith, editor of Police Magazine, and I'll be your moderator for today's event. I encourage you to ask questions during the webinar at any point, and we will try to address them all. However, if we do not get to yours, don't worry. You will be contacted by email with a response after the event. Our presenter today is Mike Millward, the Senior Product Manager of Dragon Professional and Consumer Solutions for Nuance. Mike has been a member of the Nuance team since 2006, serving in diverse roles including Senior Technical Support Engineer, Training and Documentation, Principal Product Manager, and now he oversees product management of Dragon Professional and Consumer Solutions. Mike works directly with customers to optimize their Dragon use cases in a variety of industries. Then he collaborates with the Nuance team to bring those solutions to market. Mike holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Management Information Systems from the University of Rhode Island. Now I'll hand it over to Eric Lascola from Nuance.
Hey, Dave, thanks very much, and thank you everyone for joining today and taking time out of your schedule, and to Police Magazine as well for hosting us this afternoon. So I'm going to just cover very quickly our agenda, and I'll turn things over to Mike, but we have a lot to cover in 60 minutes, so let's jump right in. Mike is going to talk a little bit about defining the problem. Those that have been on webinars in the past with us, the problem of paperwork, but meeting officer mobility and officers needing to be in different localities as they perform their jobs. So we'll define the problem. We'll talk about the impact, specifically of mobile documentation, the tools that are used, and frankly, historically, some of the prior limitations of some of those tools. We'll jump right into cloud tech innovation, which is where we'll spend most of our time today, and really the innovations that have brought anytime, anywhere access to the market and within the police tech ecosystem. We'll speak to cloud-based services, Nuance cloud-hosted solutions in particular, and we'll speak to one of our just released products in the speech recognition market. We'll show you a very quick demonstration of Dragon Professional Anywhere and speak to how we envision speech recognition technology helping kind of end-to-end throughout the workflow of an officer, really helping to streamline and automate that entire process. Anytime you talk about cloud, obviously you need to talk about security. So we'll speak to the security that is built into our cloud-hosted solutions, both at the client application level, as well as our partnership with Microsoft and the back-end infrastructure in Microsoft Azure. And then finally, we'll jump into some Q&A. So before we do, just a personal note, Mike and I have known each other now about 4 years. I don't go back as far as Mike does, but all the things that David had said at the intro, he and I have worked together in events. We may have met some of you at events that we've attended. Any customer-facing roles, he's a true advocate for clients, really helping them to integrate speech recognition technology within the workflow. And within Nuance has always been kind of the go-to lead for the development and ongoing evolution of our solutions in the different marketplaces. So with that being said, Mike, I'm going to turn things over to you in defining the problem of officer mobility meeting mandated reports.
All right, thanks a lot, Eric. Appreciate that, and thanks everyone for joining today. I'm sure that nobody signed up to be a police officer to create documentation or to fill out paperwork, but the fact is that is a large component of an officer's daily routine. It's also true that the patrol car is frequently used as their mobile office. To avoid writing up all the incident reports after the shift is over, it is necessary to complete these documentation tasks while they're still in the car. In completing these incident reports and other required documentation, both accurately and in a timely manner, it's a crucial component of the criminal justice process. However, precision is never something that can be sacrificed. there's a wide variety of documentation that law enforcement professionals are responsible for, from simple traffic incidents to citizen disputes to capturing statements from victims and witnesses, and ultimately writing up that formal incident report. There's no shortage of paperwork. And since the hours are long and the required paperwork is extensive, being able to complete that required documentation whenever and wherever you are, it's absolutely essential. So facilitating a way to allow police officers to accurately and efficiently complete their reports anywhere and at any time would be a huge difference maker. To reduce the overall time spent on paperwork, that allows police officers to focus on the most important aspects of their job, to being in the community and to responding to those important calls. You know, when I initially started having conversations with police officers to better understand their day-to-day routines, I was very surprised at how much of their typical day can be spent on producing documentation and performing various administrative tasks. You know, the majority of officers spend over 3 hours of their shift on reporting. And this is even further complicated by balancing the need between capturing the details of each incident and also responding to the next call coming in from dispatch. You know, what seems like a minor detail at the time can potentially make a major difference as that case progresses further. So waiting until the end of their shift to write up all those case notes, that could result in omitting an important piece of information. And the documentation workflow is lengthy, you know, beginning with that initial dispatch and potentially lasting all the way to appearing in court. And these workflows can often be inefficient and repetitive. And based on working with different systems that are unrelated, that may result in effort really being unnecessarily duplicated. So the average workload can be daunting and may ultimately prevent police officers from being able to make a difference in their community, which is the real reason that they signed up to become a police officer. And now police officers don't have the luxury of compiling their reports in an ideal environment. So it is often necessary to complete these documentation tasks while on the go. And with the potential for back-to-back calls, any ability to retain those relevant details quickly and accurately is extremely important. And given these difficult scenarios, it may result in a variety of different mechanisms being used to capture that information, from handwritten notes to quick voice memos using a digital recorder to pictures captured on your mobile device. You know, any method at your disposal may be used here. And this will frequently result in the duplication of effort, as it's necessary to retype and reassemble all of the information and ultimately compile them in that target system that's being used. But, you know, given the tools that you're provided with, you just have to make the best of what you have available.
Great. Thanks, Mike. I think that's actually a really good background. I'd like to move on, and I know you and I have discussed this many times, the different tools that have been used, over the last, years and even decades, and talk a little bit about, how they've been used and frankly, some of the historical limitations.
Yeah, absolutely. So won't spend too much time on this slide, but again, definitely wanted to call out that historically, there's been a big separation of these various tools and systems. And that really doesn't facilitate an efficient workflow. You know, it was useful to take voice notes on a microcassette, but then you still had to rewrite or retype them when you're back in front of the computer. And information was often siloed and not accessible across different mediums. And also the duplication of effort was very common. Even early speech solutions had a high barrier to entry. They required extensive training in order to start using them. They did have a high learning curve, so in order to get comfortable and efficient when using it, it took some time to get used to. And also, most speech solutions required having a really high horsepower system in order to perform that speech recognition processing locally on your device.
Right, and as we've talked about, something changed. There was a decade of what we refer to as, the decade of artificial intelligence. So why don't I let you take the audience through that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, the quality and accuracy of speech recognition solutions are ultimately dependent on the amount of data that they're trained on. Early solutions, even including Dragon Naturally Speaking, they were based on a limited amount of data that was used as the starting point for each individual user. And it then required those users to spend extensive time training the system, typically by reading lengthy scripts and stories even before you could start to use it. And also, these systems were only able to improve based on the limited data that was delivered by that single speaker that was using it. So the incremental improvement that the software was able to make was strictly limited to that single voice. And like the example given here, early speech solutions were basically like a small child, where that single user was the software's only known source to learn and improve from. So this meant not only was there a high barrier to entry in starting to use the solution, that the initial accuracy when you first start out was quite limited, and it still required extensive usage to finally deliver that acceptable level of precision. However, the acceptance of consumer speech solutions like Siri and Alexa have really driven the adoption of consumer and enterprise speech solutions over the past few years. And these products have helped drive the ability to learn from an aggregate pool of data, allowing speech solutions to become, more flexible, to deliver a high level of accuracy right out of the box, and to not require that specialized training procedure. So over the past decade, Nuance has made massive amounts of progress to be able to truly deliver that next generation of speech solutions. And so it's no longer necessary to spend time training the software up front in order to start using it. The accuracy is over 99% out of the box. And by leveraging artificial intelligence to learn from massive amounts of data, we can now deliver a more accurate speech solution starting from the moment that you begin to use it. And one big difference from consumer solutions like Siri and Alexa is that Dragon is a speaker-dependent solution. So that means it is tuned to your specific voice, and it will continuously adapt and improve to your distinctive voice and speech pattern. You have your own unique user profile, which is constantly being optimized and tuned the more that you use the software. And compared to, other speech solutions that are available, those are mostly speaker-independent solutions. So that means they're kind of optimized to work pretty good for everyone, but they won't learn from your unique voice, and they will not adapt the more that you use them. So now that child has access to such a vast amount of data that it learns and incrementally improves quicker than ever.
Terrific. And yet, you and I have talked about this, despite this, decade of rapid advances, there's been one factor that until relatively recently had yet to fully materialize. And I think, that's really summed up in this quote. I'll let you speak to it from Michael Dell.
Yeah, absolutely. He said it very well with, technology now allows people to connect anytime, anywhere, and to anyone in the world from almost any device. And this is dramatically changing the way people work, facilitating 24/7 collaboration with colleagues who are dispersed across time zones, countries, and continents. And that solved issue is that of connectivity. And by leveraging cloud services, we've really broken down those silos where information had historically been isolated. And now we can share information, documents, and ideas all seamlessly and without restrictions to anyone and really anywhere.
Terrific. So let's jump right in then to leveraging cloud-hosted technology and frankly, how that's helped inform our product development and helping law enforcement professionals with things like incident reporting.
Yeah, absolutely. The adoption of those consumer speech products and smart speakers have also brought enterprise speech solutions into mainstream usage. really speech can just be considered as an additional input mechanism now. It's a keyboard for your voice, and that allows you to more efficiently and effectively capture all of your ideas. And by leveraging the most secure cloud infrastructures like Microsoft Azure, enterprises are confidently able to use cloud technologies for a variety of solutions, including speech. And there's a lot of different benefits to leveraging various cloud solutions. You can always have the latest and greatest software. You don't have to deal with, self-hosting or other administrative requirements. You have a predictable licensing model, you have scalability, etc. And also mobile clients are now more relevant than ever before. Taking advantage of cloud-based processing allows powerful applications to run on iOS and Android devices, because you can offload the required horsepower to perform this processing in the cloud.
Excellent. And I think this, just kind of speaks to, what you've been discussing in terms of the growth of cloud computing.
Yeah, exactly. The slide is pretty self-explanatory here. It identifies, obviously, a massive growth in cloud computing. And, forecasted over the next few years, the North American cloud computing market is projected to be almost $170 billion by 2027.
All right. Well, David, I think what I'd like to do is give the audience a chance to participate here and respond to one of our initial poll questions. So if we could actually just bring that up and give them an opportunity to respond. Okay, so the question is, on a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being the highest level of agreement, do you believe that your department either is or will be migrating more applications to the cloud? So things like RMS, CAD, or even federated databases. So David, if we could open that up and allow the audience to vote on that. And we'll give it just about 30 seconds or so. Okay, looks like most everyone has had an opportunity to respond. So if we could push those results, David, to the audience, that would be great. And very consistent with what we've been seeing. Over 80% of you all indicated that, in fact, you either are or will be migrating more of your applications to the cloud, which is encouraging for us to hear because that's very consistent with our market research. So thank you for that input, and we'll jump back in here to the slides and have an opportunity to have one more poll question before the webinar is out. So let's advance, Mike. We can talk about our cloud-hosted solutions and Dragon Professional Anywhere and Dragon Anywhere Mobile.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And again, so based on, these market trends and the overall growth and acceptance of cloud computing, we were very happy to announce last week that the availability of Dragon Professional Anywhere and Dragon Anywhere Mobile has come to the United States. And our solution delivers clients for Windows, iOS, and Android that all utilize the Microsoft Azure platform to run the latest nuanced speech recognition engine in the cloud. And your user profile is shared across all those different platforms. So your various customizations, like your own unique words you've added and different commands like auto text, those are all accessible from every single one of your devices. And also by leveraging this secure cloud deployment, there are numerous benefits that are delivered to the entire organization. You're removing the burden of self-hosting and client administration. It's no longer necessary to manually manage all those different software installations and upgrades. You can be confident that you'll always have every user with the latest version of software, and that can happen automatically as well. The heavy lifting of that processing of speech is done in the cloud, so you're able to run the software on thin clients, and even mobile clients are now fully supported. It also, facilitates reduced capital expenditures up front and delivers a predictable licensing model. It allows for easy scalability. It supports, running in different virtual environments. And again, you can be confident that it's securely running in the Microsoft Azure hosting environment. So I think we can probably just see a real quick demonstration of how the Dragon Professional Anywhere solution looks in action here.
Let's do that. David, if you could bring up the video, we'd love to show it to the participants today.
Insert police report. August 27, 2020. Next field. Officer Millward. Next field. 179285. Next field. Anchor speech focus. On August 27, 2020 at 2300 hours, Officer Millward responded to an auto theft call at Stone Avenue, period. The victim, Randall Coleman, advised that he had parked his vehicle at the corner parking lot at Beacon Street and Stone Avenue while he attended the Boston College basketball game, period. Coleman advised that when he returned from the game, his vehicle was gone, period. Coleman explained that he had paid a parking attendant who claimed to work for the college, period. Coleman advised that he did not see the parking attendant after the game was over, period. Release speech focus. New paragraph. New paragraph. Insert speeding citation. 88. Next field. Campanella Way. Next field. 2019 Porsche 911.
Excellent. So thank you, David, and I hope you all enjoyed watching that quick, about a minute and 20-second video. We'll look forward to taking some of your questions at the end. But one of the things that Mike showed, which we've gotten a lot of very positive feedback on, is this anchored focus dictation mode, which we see is really a key feature that law enforcement professionals will be able to use. So let's continue on, and maybe, Mike, if we could just, briefly get into the value proposition as we see it, particularly with the cloud-hosted offering now in Dragon Professional Anywhere.
Yeah, definitely. We're very confident that our cloud-based speech solutions will be a huge benefit to law enforcement professionals. You can automate and you can standardize the various workflows that are required on a day-to-day basis. And this is even more critical due to the fact that, law enforcement deals with time-sensitive, locality-sensitive, and compliance-sensitive information. Utilizing these speech solutions allow the officer to complete their reports quickly and not needing to sacrifice details or thoroughness of the reports. We speed up the creation of time-sensitive documents, we lower the cost or the overall effort of producing them, and we also accelerate the overall turnaround time. Ultimately, using speech as an input mechanism can reduce the tediousness too. You can allow the user to be more efficient while quickly completing their documentation. Rather than having handwritten notes and emails and voice memos, documents, etc., and then needing to compile everything together later, Dragon can facilitate the user to assemble everything in a central location and complete the necessary reports quickly.
Great. And for the technically curious amongst us, I know this diagram obviously shows a kind of a pictorial of what the system looks like, but maybe if you could kind of just briefly bring the audience through, Mike, how the system works and the interaction between the Windows client we see on the left and on the right, the iOS and Android client, and how that interacts with the Microsoft Azure system.
Yeah, sure. So, behind and within the Microsoft Azure cloud, we have two different components here. We have first the Dragon Speech Server. So that is really the cloud-based real-time speech recognition engine, and it has various data packs, which are basically specialties. And we have general dictation, we have legal, and we also have a law enforcement optimized data pack. And now the Nuance Management Server, that's a separate component that handles the licensing, the user management aspect, and also the different customizations. If you want to add unique words, whether they be last names of your officers or unique street names in your town, or auto text to facilitate, whether it be a simple template like an email signature, a complex form like you saw in the demo, where it could be something as simple as a few sentences to fill in the different fields, or it could be an entire page or multiple pages of a form where you can jump and fill in each different field that you're required to do. And so that backend is shared between all of those different clients. Your Windows client of Dragon Professional Anywhere and your Dragon Anywhere mobile client that runs on all different Android and iOS devices. So it really delivers, a powerful speech solution that is available anytime and anywhere, and is facilitated by that constant connectivity between the clients. And again, more relevant today than ever before, especially with the rollout of 5G networks, the adoption of the FirstNet network, and along with the, growing popularity of cloud-based RMS systems. We've extended speech to mobile clients to really deliver that, work anywhere use case. And always knowing that you'll have the latest and greatest version, that's a massive change from that complex requirement previously of managing, locally running desktop software deployments. And you can easily utilize other cloud technologies, such as cloud storage services like Microsoft OneDrive, to be able to start working on one device and then immediately pick up on a different device whenever you need to.
Great. And maybe we could, bring the audience through, based on our research, what that looks like in terms of a workflow to produce a police report.
Mm-hmm. Sure, yeah. I mean, leveraging various cloud-hosted services, including Dragon, can really greatly assist in the full end-to-end documentation workflow. The value add to law enforcement use cases can be huge. From using that Dragon Anywhere mobile client to capture notes in real time after being dispatched to the scene, to then using Dragon Professional Anywhere to create intake forms and statements, to write emails and letters, and to ultimately complete that entire incident report all by voice. And also, the integration of cloud services for document management and for sharing needs across different systems. And also, being able to measure the overall ROI and also the boosts in productivity and turnaround time when using speech solutions for that entire documentation workflow. And ultimately, this results in the documentation, being accurate and authoritative, compliant and comprehensive, and repeatable and standardized.
Yeah, and that's so important. I mean, it's something you and I both hear in our conversations with customers, and it's really kind of end-to-end throughout the workflow and capturing documentation. What cloud hosting now opens up for our law enforcement customers. So I think that's just a great summary of how we envision our new cloud-hosted services working. I'll let you speak to kind of, a little bit more on the documentation workflow and the 4 elements.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I mean, just really to recap, Dragon enhances the effectiveness of law enforcement documentation by improving the speed, by improving the accuracy, and also, the immediacy and the detail. It's not acceptable to sacrifice any one of these components. Police reports and other documentation, they all must have a very high level of accuracy. They must properly reflect every detail of that situation. And again, those reports, they must be submitted as quickly as possible. but it's not acceptable to sacrifice any relevant information. You need to make sure that all of those details are included, but also turned around in a quick and efficient manner.
Yeah, absolutely. And it just speaks to, again, this idea of having to manage all of the dispatches that officers receive, but also, I recall, speaking to one of our customers and talking about, the ability to capture that detail. And as the slide says here, trusting the dots will connect, meaning an officer may capture something at the scene, a detail that he's able to capture now because he's able to capture the immediacy of an incident. But there may be a detail that he or she captures that may only be relevant or may make itself known as relevant weeks or perhaps months after the fact. So it's the ability to not only be efficient in doing their job, but also capturing the detail which can then go on, obviously, to prosecutors and help move criminal proceedings along.
Exactly. Yep.
So let's talk about just briefly a little bit kind of agency-wide. How do we see this technology, Mike, the combination of Dragon Professional Anywhere and Dragon Anywhere Mobile, the iOS or Android client, really scaling across the agency or the departments?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, our Dragon solutions, they're a really quick and easy fit for the patrol officer's use case. Needing to thoroughly and accurately capture a detailed incident report and populate that narrative by voice. But the benefits are also tangible for a variety of other law enforcement staff. Detectives who need to capture extremely detailed notes while at the scene of a crime can do so by leveraging Dragon Anywhere Mobile. Any potential detail that might be applicable to the case and can be captured in real time, and that prevents any relevant information from potentially slipping through the cracks. I remember, the first time that I showed Dragon Anywhere Mobile to a detective, his eyes just, grew twice as big and said, "Where has this application been all my life?" From the mixture of handwritten notes and voice notes and memos and sending yourself emails, and it allows you to centrally capture everything together. And also, chiefs and command staff, you can reduce the overall expenditures of using third-party transcription services, which I've definitely seen can be very common, but also very expensive. And also, one of the most important things is giving their officers this tool that really ensures the law enforcement personnel maintain situational awareness. Being able to be aware of your surroundings and not have your eyes deviated to the computer, hunched over, and not aware of your surroundings. You can be heads up, looking around your environment, and be able to dictate in detail your entire police report. So that's a huge, huge differentiator there too. And even the IT staff, the benefits are huge for them. It's from the simplified administration of the software, from extremely easy deployment of the software to all the different users that need to actually access the solution, and even license management. In addition, the standardization of workflows. Definitely something where it's a very big deal to have consistency across the board, not have different variations of reports and forms be used by certain officers. You can have an exact standard report for each different form that may be necessary, and that's available to all users or to certain subsets of users. And finally, being able to identify certain key metrics, being able to measure the return on investment of how using Dragon is actually benefiting your entire police force.
Absolutely. And Mike, I suspect, more than a few of our audience members are probably familiar with Dragon Law Enforcement, and I'm guessing we'll take some questions on that shortly. But one other thing I think is important to speak about is the advantages of the cloud-hosted solution relative to maybe older MDCs that officers may be using in their patrol vehicles? Because I think that's another area that really stands out. So maybe you could spend just a minute on that. That would be terrific.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, not having to have the processing power of this speech solution all be performed locally on that device. And, it's often times where that device may not be the latest and greatest system. It may not have the latest specifications. And in addition to running speech solutions, you're also running many other applications. And those applications all, put pressure and consume resources on that machine. So if you can take one of those, higher processing solutions such as speech and really offset that, so there's really nothing being performed locally on that machine, you're then freeing up the resources on that machine to then be able to equip and, process and allow those other applications to run as expected, and really putting that high level of processing power up into the cloud so you don't have to worry about needing the latest and greatest hardware to run speech solutions. You can have older systems. You can have a thin client device and still have the really powerful technology of this cloud solution available on many, many different client systems.
Well, thanks, Mike. I think that's an important point, and certainly we've got some great feedback on that. So I'm glad you called that out. And then the Nuance Management Center, I think speaks to what you were talking about. But I'll let you offer some comments here on this slide.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, the Nuance Management Center, I think that, pretty much any administrative, team member that sees the capabilities of the Nuance Management Center will be impressed and also relieved at the, reduced amount of effort they have to allocate to, rolling out and also managing software. Like I mentioned before, you can push out these different standardized templates and commands and words to either your entire department or, to a certain group or subset of users. And really that facilitates, the compliancy and reliability and also, standardization. You're ensuring that everyone is always working from that same point and you don't have any inconsistencies across your force. And consistent functionality across that user base, whether it's application settings, whether it's those custom words and commands, or even the customized buttons on the power mic. You can ensure that every patrol officer, when they push that bottom left-hand corner button, it does a very specific task. There's no inconsistency where it's difficult to support. You have an expectation across the board of this is how the solution works, and the expectations can be managed very simply, and the adoption of the software will be that much quicker. So again, being able to leverage pushing to every single person in your department or defining groups and subsets of users that maybe certain forms and templates are applicable to this group, but not to the other group. So you can really have a complete flexibility of pushing out those standardizations. Also, license management. It really allows for such an easy deployment, and also there's something called dynamic profiles, which basically allows the officer to open their unique profile on any different device that they need to access Dragon from. So if they go from different patrol car to different patrol car over a matter of a few days, they don't have to worry about copying files over or wanting to pull the MDT out from one car and putting it into another. They log on with their unique username, and their profile is then available on that device, whatever device they need to use that day. And, finally, the reporting capabilities, really, really useful. Not only would it allow you to determine, who the power users are and who is getting the most out of the software, but also who may need additional training or assistance. We often recommend pairing up one of the top power users of the department with maybe someone who's resistant to start using the solution or just doesn't really understand it and needs some hands-on training. And also to be able to, again, measure that specific return on investment and the time and cost savings that are, facilitated by using Dragon.
Terrific. And we're coming into the home stretch here, but I know we said obviously we want to talk about security and redundancy. So why don't we quickly go through, Mike, and if you could, explain to the audience how it is we've built that into our solutions, that would be great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, we've definitely, Nuance has formed a very strong partnership with Microsoft over the past few years. And just kind of as an example, we have a solution out in the market today and has been available for a few years now called Dragon Medical One. And that is also, available within the Microsoft Azure environment. And this is used by hundreds of thousands of doctors today. And we're obviously so confident and we can securely handle that personal health information that doctors dictate every day to create their detailed medical records. And in Dragon Professional Anywhere, it's the exact same environment. It's really almost the identical application, only this is optimized not for medical use cases, but for law enforcement use cases. So, leveraging the secure and high-end cloud speech technology, it allows that, really next-generation solution to be available and can be confidently rolled out to entire departments. And again, leveraging Microsoft Azure, we have, a very secure environment, a very high uptime, environment that's constantly monitored. In the past year, we actually had not 1 second of downtime. We had a complete 100% uptime. So we are, again, very confident that not only is the environment secure, but also extremely reliable as well. And, there's multiple data centers that we have throughout the country. So depending on your location, you'll be connecting to that, closest data center that you're physically located to ensure that there's no kind of delay or latency, and that you're always connecting to a secure server that you can confidently use.
Great. And I think this kind of just visually depicts the slide here, what you were just speaking to, and the idea of redundancy and failover as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, again, with a partnership with Microsoft, not only is Microsoft constantly monitoring their data centers, multiple different data centers throughout the United States, ensuring that, again, that latency is as low as possible because you'll always be routed to that, closest data center that you're located to physically. But also the Nuance side has, a large team, really an army of people that will react at a moment's notice in the case where anything does maybe go wrong or there's some potential downtime. You can confidently know that there is a dedicated team on the Nuance side and a dedicated team with our partnership with Microsoft to monitor and ensure constant availability for our Azure platform. And, again, I think to jump into real quick some of the security points here, and we'll leave some time for Q&A, being able to have full encryption, everything, all data is encrypted in transit and at rest with 256-bit encryption. There's never any audio that's stored locally on your device. You're streaming that audio and you get the text back. That audio does not linger on and could potentially be listened to by some, non-approved person. So, and even all the metadata is encrypted with Microsoft Azure standards. So, we were very trustworthy with our partnership with Microsoft and are proud to, roll out solutions to law enforcement professionals, just like we have with healthcare professionals, knowing that data sensitivity is extremely critical, but that's something that is at the very top of our list to make sure that we're rolling out a secure and reliable solution to all of our users.
Excellent. Thanks, Mike. We do want to get to Q&A, but I did promise we would give the audience the opportunity to participate in one more poll question. So, David, if we could pull up the second poll question. And so the question is, on a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 the highest level of agreement, is procuring smart tools like speech recognition via a modest, all-in, predictable monthly subscription plan that would include support and upgrades more viable than a large upfront capital expenditure with ongoing maintenance costs? So if we can open that up, David, that would be great, and we'll let the audience vote. And we'll give it just a couple more seconds here. Okay, why don't we push those results so that the audience can see them, David? And actually, this is, again, very encouraging. Similar set of responses. Over 83% of you agreed that a monthly subscription plan that was an all-in plan with support and upgrades was more viable than a single capital expenditure. And candidly, that has been a big motivating factor in us moving forward with Dragon Professional Anywhere. So with that being said, we've got about a little over 10 minutes. David, I'd love to open it up to some questions from the audience and have Mike and or myself be able to field any of those questions.
All right, let's do it. Okay. First question is from a current Dragon law enforcement user. Is this product replacing Dragon law enforcement, or will I still be able to get support?
I could take that one. So it is definitely not going to replace our existing Dragon law enforcement solution. There are definitely advantages to each solution. So we will continue to support and also improve our existing Dragon law enforcement solution that's in the market today. But we're very excited to roll out our new cloud-based solution. There may be a need to have, no connectivity. If you are in a rural area that doesn't have any decent, 5G or LTE connection, you need to have that speech processing performed locally on the MDT and the Cruiser. That would be somewhere where you would want to use the Dragon law enforcement solution that's been in the market for a few years now. Alternatively, if you're looking to simplify your deployments, if you have a large department and managing all, hundreds of different users, hundreds of different computers, constantly needing to, upgrade and make sure that the software is the latest and greatest version. If you want to remove that manual administration task, Dragon Professional Anywhere, that's definitely going to be the solution that's going to be right for you. And there are many, commonalities between the two different solutions. You still get that optimized vocabulary. So the vocabulary that's geared towards the dictation that law enforcement professionals need, that is available in both solutions. But, Dragon Law Enforcement or Dragon Professional Anywhere, both solutions will be available, and depending on what your needs are, we're ourselves and our sales team would be happy to better understand what your requirements are and make sure that, we're getting the best solution for you. And it may also make sense to have a combination of both of those solutions available within the same department as well.
Okay, great. Is the connection with your mobile app secure? Is the security different or less robust than with Dragon Professional Anywhere?
Yeah, so really everything that we do is encrypted. So the second you start dictating, whether it's with the Windows application or whether it's with the mobile application, your audio data is fully encrypted with 256-bit encryption, and that is sent up via a secure Microsoft Azure cloud. Then our speech server that resides in that Azure environment will then turn your audio into text. Then that text is also encrypted, and it leaves the Azure environment and is sent back to your client, whether that's the Windows client or the mobile client. So security, again, is paramount for us. We know and recognize that when you're dealing with sensitive information, whether it be personal identifiable information and potentially secure information around, police, cases and cases going to trial, or doctors dictating PHI about patients. So it's something that, Nuance as a whole has really put at the very top of our, importance list here. And we would never roll out a solution that we didn't have full confidence in being completely secure.
Okay. How does this work now with regards to background noise?
Yeah, so it definitely depends on the device that you're using. So if you were to try to use, your little built-in array microphone that's on your laptop in your patrol car, and you had your windows down, and you were driving, and you had the radio going, well, that's typically not going to recognize it that great. But there are many different devices, whether it's something that you already have, whether it's something that you buy outside of the, Nuance, engagement, or we definitely have different devices that we recommend as well. And we found, for a police deployment of our software, the PowerMic device is by far the best device that we've come across so far. Not only does it have a very high-end noise canceling microphone, but it also, has similar functionality to the radios that officers are typically, using every day. The push-to-talk functionality, where when you push that button down, Dragon starts to listen, and you can speak to it, and the second you release your thumb, then Dragon stops listening. So same exact, workflow and style that you would typically be used to with using a radio, that functionality is also, available with the PowerMic. And in addition to just a high-quality microphone, the PowerMic does have, fully customizable buttons. It actually has an integrated mouse. So really, you can sit back in your chair, you can be heads up and be aware of your surroundings, and you can completely control your computer by the mouse and by the buttons and by your speech, all within that PowerMic device.
Okay. Do the reports remain in the cloud after the document has been completed, or can the document be removed from the cloud?
Yeah, so really if you're talking about, where that document will live, you can really just think of Dragon as a keyboard for your voice. So there's nothing that's storing your entire document anywhere. You're basically using Dragon as a keyboard for your voice. So you put your cursor into your RMS system, and in that narrative field, then you push the microphone button down to turn that on, then you dictate. And that text basically goes into the field that you have your cursor into. So again, it's really, at the end of the day, a keyboard for your voice. So there's nothing that, stores your documents anywhere within Dragon. It's really where you're dictating into, where your cursor is placed within any target application. You're using your voice as an alternative to using a keyboard.
Okay. Our IT department is strapped. Do I understand correctly this solution can be deployed with minimal resources required from them?
Yes, and that's a great question. I'm happy to say that it really couldn't be any simpler. So Dragon Professional Anywhere has multiple different deployment methods, but my favorite, and I'm sure the favorite of administration personnel out there, is something that we call Click Once, where it literally is a single link that you can send out via email, and all the end user has to do is click that link once. And that'll actually install the client application instantly, and not only will that application be available, but it will continuously be updated. So if that client, version gets updated down the road, there's nothing that the user themselves or the administration staff has to do. That update will be automatically cascaded out to each individual client system that use this installation method. So it really couldn't be any more simple. And again, compared to what you typically do with other desktop software, is do full network deployments and writing scripts to push out installation, silent installation packages. There's a huge potential for things to go wrong. You always have to have those systems on and accessible and on the network to be able to push out those updates. So we've really simplified, the deployment and also the management of all the client software. And in addition, licensing and customization as well, all through our Nuance Management Center portal.
Okay. This customer remembers using Dragon in the early 2000s with mixed results. Other than this solution being in the cloud, how is it better than what I used then?
Yeah, absolutely. I remember when I started at Nuance, it was, Dragon Naturally Speaking 8 was the, latest version in the market, and we had just launched version 9 shortly thereafter. And, it worked, but you really had to enunciate very well. You had to go through a massive amount of training. You had to read almost a half hour of stories and scripts for that speech recognition engine to be able to accurately recognize what you were saying. And we've come such a long way with the multiple releases of our Dragon Naturally Speaking product line, which has eventually evolved over the past 15 years into Dragon Law Enforcement, but really the algorithms that are figuring out what you're saying have really, improved and have been modernized drastically over the past few years. It relies on, again, like I mentioned previously, the amount of training data to optimize those models. It's no longer just optimized for a very, well-spoken native English speaker. You can have all kinds of different accents. You can not be a native, speaker of that language, and the adaptation is almost incredible, where you can potentially start dictating, and within a matter of a minute or two, it's already adapted to, the uniqueness of your voice and speaking pattern. So again, the leveraging of the artificial intelligence behind that speech recognition engine, the massive amount of data that we train our models on, it is optimized to really meet that specific use case. And again, there's a lot of differences between all kinds of different use cases here. So the medical solution that we sell today is very different on the back end because that is tweaked and optimized for medical use cases. Just like our law enforcement solution, that is tuned and optimized to a law enforcement use case only. So you would never want to say, okay, a doctor should be using the law enforcement product. Well, it's not tuned for that use case. It is tuned for law enforcement personnel to create their documentation of reports, just like we've worked so hard on over the past few years to really optimize those models to be a perfect solution.
Okay. Money is tight in government agencies. With so many free speech recognition offerings out there today, built into my cell phone, for example, why should our agency pay for speech recognition?
Yeah, it's a fair question, and there's a long list of reasons why, but I can give you kind of the high points here. So, first I mentioned it briefly before, is that Dragon is a speaker-dependent solution. So it is optimized for you, and the more that you use it, the better it knows you, and the better performance it'll actually, give you. So you can be, any person can go use Alexa or Google or Siri, right? And you'll get the same consistent results, but there will never be any improvement or adaptation. So your results the day that you use Siri the first time will be the same as the results you use Siri 2 years later. Versus with Dragon, again, you're continuously getting that improved performance, that adaptation and optimization, and also with the customizations we can do with Dragon. You can have custom words, you can have custom commands, you can create them yourself as an end user, you can have your administrator create them for you and push out all those different customizations to one or all of your users. So again, the flexibility and the adaptation that Dragon brings to the table, those are two of the biggest differentiators that we get above and beyond all the different free solutions. And just one last thing is that typically with free solutions, there's typically, if it's free, that means that you're the product. So not having, targeted advertisements sent to you based on using Siri or Google, we want to facilitate the most accurate speech recognition interaction possible, individually tailored to each user, and allowing that full customization for the user themselves or for the administrator to manage for all of their users.
Okay. That is all the time we have for today, but for anyone who asked a question that wasn't answered, Nuance will be following up via email to answer your questions individually. We hope that you all enjoyed today's webinar. I want to again thank Mike Millward and Eric Lascola of Nuance for today's presentation. I also want to mention that an on-demand version of this webinar will be available on the Police Magazine website at policemag.com/webinars. Thank you, and have a great day.